A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us right here on Lookup TV. My name is John Matava. You are watching Counties in Focus, and today we are discussing about the current water crisis in the country that has hit mostly the counties in the western part of Kenya, rather in the coast part of Kenya, that is Lamu, Kilifi, and other areas. As well, we'll be looking at the domestic violence that has been rising in different parts of the country, looking at most counties that have been affected by the domestic violence. And with me on set to discuss the same issue is Alice Ngige, who is a counseling psychologist, and my further stand is Eugene Ochieng, who is a governance expert. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And again, the other day we had the government spokesperson, Cyrus Oguna, saying that Kenyans, as a government, they're committed to making sure that Kenyans lack no food, lack no water, but we still have some cases where counties like Lamu, Kilifi, they're lacking water, and actually they've severely been affected by the water crisis. Maybe what are some of the effects that these guys are going through?
Okay, thank you so much, Matava. I think these are some of the issues, just as you have mentioned, that we have water shortages in the coastal regions and places like Kilifi and Lamu. And I think for a very long time, these issues have not been on our national discourse. We have not been discussing these things, and yet there are tiny issues that are affecting people and that we need to look at. And just as you said, the government spokesman, that is Cyrus Oguna, talking about some of the issues that the government is doing towards ensuring that the people have food. But we must as well understand that at the end of the day, it is not about what the government is doing for us, but what exactly are we doing for ourselves. No, everything starts with ourselves. And as some of the successful guys outside here says that everything starts with the attitude. It starts with the mindset of an individual. As we progress so that we can go to the community at large. So it starts with, the conviction starts with a person. So what I think from what you are saying about what the government has done, the government has done a lot. But on the same note, we must understand that the government has always prioritized things, or rather those issues that are giving back money to the government. You get me? Like oil, for an instance. And of course, this water issue has been left for the county governments who are struggling with it. But I think the government is still doing something for it, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and just on that, yes, you said everything has been left for the county governments, right? Do you think maybe the national government should get in and step in maybe to help curb the water crisis?
Yes, the national government has a lot to do. You know, everything trickles down from the national government and to the county government. The county government actually has, if you look at the fund that the county government gets, then it's only 15%. And we have the BBI, the BBI thing that is coming. And so in the discourse amongst the things that BBI is going to tackle is to ensure that the revenue, the county government is going to get about 35% of the money. But we must understand that the government has to put a lot more effort in providing for its national citizens than even the county, because the county government has so much, has so little compared to what the national government has. Yeah, so the national government has to give so much. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And now, Alice, now looking at the residents in Lamu, Kilifi, they've been severely affected by the water crisis. Maybe how can we gain, or rather, how can they handle their mentality?
It starts, just as my colleague has said, it's all in the mindset. We need to create that awareness that whenever we have water, we need to conserve it. We take that responsibility. Because I do believe that once in a while we get that water, but how much do we conserve? So when the community is enlightened on ways of conserving water, we can be able to reduce the the water crisis there. So it's all about psychoeducating the people, educating them, reminding them, and as time goes by, we are going to be able to curb that issue. Yeah, psychoeducation.
But now, looking at the situation at this point, yes, we have to educate them, we have to enlighten them, but whom do we give the role to do that to?
It starts from the family. The family is the smallest unit. So as a parent, what role am I playing in issues of water conservation? For example, if I have a kitchen garden as a parent, instead of throwing that water away, I can inform my children, instead of pouring this water, you can be doing what? You can be watering the kitchen garden. So it starts from the family, it goes to the community level, up to the national level. So the role of the chiefs, the role of the church leaders, the school teachers, and everyone has a role to play in that. So it starts from the family going up to the national government. Yeah.
All right. And again, sustainable water management is one of the measures that can help curb the water crisis. Maybe what are other measures that can be put in place? On to you.
Yes, sustainable water management is one of the ways, one of the measures as you've mentioned. But under it, we have so many things. Like a part of it is like water desalination. Like this is the process whereby we use we ensure that the salty water has been made safe for drinking and even doing other economic work activities. Like maybe you can that is now the water can now be used in making other products, can be used even in selling outside for people like travelers and so on and so forth. Yeah, so water desalination, and we also realize that other measures of conserving the same water is that we can use storage tanks, and there's so many other things that we can use in storage of water. But we must understand that all these things, even in storage of water, they have got their cons and the disadvantages. You get me? The advantages and disadvantages. So like there is the pros and cons. Like if you store water for a very long time, you realize that with the time it catches dust and it might not be so efficient or favorable for even drinking and even other economic activities. You get me? So the best way, just as you've mentioned, we can put in more. Actually, the government can put in more effort, majorly, in purchasing of pipes, so that water maybe from one point can reach the other points. And as we talk about the coastal regions, I believe there are many rivers. There are many rivers actually. I was studying about the coastal regions, and I realized that there are some rivers, in as much as most of the parts are inclined towards the salty Indian Ocean, but we realize that there are some ways in which we can reduce the effects of the saltiness of this water into a water that can be drunk or can be used even in the home. Yes.
And again, you said something to do with utilizing the salty water. Maybe, do you think this is applicable in Mombasa, maybe, and could help?
Yeah, it's very, very applicable because, number one, majorly the water in Mombasa, I've been to Mombasa in several locations, and I've realized that most of the water there is purely salty because it's from the beach, from the Indian Ocean. But if they can use the same this method, then it can be used to conserve water, even for drinking and for some other chores. Yeah, you get me, from home, and even other. It can be the same water can be used in industries. Yeah.
All right. And maybe what do you think the government should do to make sure that we solve the problem of water crisis once and for all? Because it's been a talk of the past every now and then. Every county, like the 47 counties have been affected. So what do you think maybe should be done to end the problem once and for all?
I think the resources allocated specifically for water shortage, to mitigate water shortages should be increased. we understand that, just as I said earlier, that the government's priorities, like I think the government priorities have always been inclined towards things or activities that give us money. You get me? But I believe in one way or the other that water shortages, if curbed, then we can help even the living condition, the standards of the living of the people around the coast, or even those other places. And we must understand this concept, that is not only the coastal people, regions, and the people, the residents, that are facing water shortages. But even in Nairobi itself, there are a lot of people that do not get water. So it's high time that the government, for once or for all, if they could invest more in purchasing materials that could ensure that we get water, like the pipes themselves, because even some other places do not get water because of pipes, simply pipes. Maybe they need to purchase more pipes. They need to purchase some other materials which can be used to purify water itself, so that it can be safe enough for drinking. So it's high time that the government purchases materials and invests so much in these materials that will ensure that we get safe water for the use of industries and even for homes itself. Yes, just by investing much. We just have to invest much. We have to go. They have to purchase. They have to bring the equipment. You get me? Yeah, I think some other ways is through educating people. Yeah, if you educate people, these things, as the psychologist said earlier, that everything starts from an individual. And then after the individual, then we have the family. After the family, then of course we go to the community, and probably we'll reach at the country. So if you have the mother there, as an individual, you are convicted that since there's water shortages, then I have to use this water sparingly. I can also ensure that my children do the same. And if I do this, then I can also teach my neighbor how to conserve water. You get me? After teaching my neighbor how to conserve water, then this thing, I believe somehow it will lead the community. And when we understand as an individual that this is the way we should preserve water, as educating ourselves, then I believe that we would have managed to mitigate the issue of water shortage somehow. Yes, so that is some of the way in which we can do it personally, even without involving the government, because at some point we get the water. You get me? We realize that these are problems that will always be there. And as a governance expert looking at it, I realize and understand that there's so many issues that we are solving. The government is solving, and so it cannot always solve a single issue like maybe water. There are so many other issues, mister. We must accept this fact. And so if we start doing it by ourselves, we use water sparing, we educate ourselves on how to curb this issue, then I believe that it in its own self will help us to curb this issue. Yes.
But again, looking at those counties, you find people are crying, maybe saying the government should do this to them. Do you think maybe the government should put the water crisis as a Big Four agenda?
Actually, I think in the Big Four agendas we have water is part of it. Because actually we cannot have a developed nation, we cannot have sanity whereby we do not have water. We must understand that sanitization, when we talk about sanity, for example, water in its own self, something that we did not talk about is its effects. When we have water shortage, what are the effects of water shortages? Yeah, we must understand that first of all, there are diseases that comes even from water shortages, like the skin diseases. We might even have diarrhea. There are a lot of diseases. Yes. Yeah. So there are like a lot of diseases, and it affects even the mental health itself, which my sister will talk about. Because when we do not have water, and I think it affects the economy at large. When we do not have water at home, first of all, and I cannot be healthy, because I need to have drinking water. So if I do not have drinking water, even the way I'll be reasoning, there's this, from where I come, there's this say that a satisfied man That is a direct translation. That a satisfied man cannot sit on the same table with a hungry man and agree on something. You get me?
Yeah.
So majorly, when you look at this concept, it's like this person who does not have water, you expect them to go to school. You expect their children to go to school. You expect them to go to the workplace and work efficiently. You see, so these are huge problems that if we could try to curb this issue of water shortage, then we could adversely mitigate even the economic issue at large, economic problems that are affecting us, because it will come when the mind is fresh, when the sanity and these other things, then yeah. So the government in its big four agendas, water is there. Yeah. So it's only that we must understand that the current state of affairs, many things, even the development of our nation has been affected with the corruption. Yeah. So corruption has always been the scapegoat. We had our president just the other time talking about 2 billion shillings. Just I don't know how it's escaping the national treasury every day, and of course it's saddening. These are money that can be used can be channeled towards mitigating these issues, the water scarcity, and of course even starvation, because even we understand that if there is water scarcity, then it is also part of it leads to starvation. You get me? Yeah. Actually, you can survive with water without food.
Absolutely, because they say water is life.
Yeah, water is life. Yeah. So it's in big four agendas, but we understand that there are a lot of things that have affected our government. Right now, even as we're talking about mitigating such, and there are a lot of problems in themselves that have not been affected by the government, that were in the big four agendas. And the government is citing that it's because of the coronavirus, the pandemic that we have has made us not to, the government not to reach actually what they wanted to, the milestones that they had told the Kenyans, that promised Kenyans that they are going to reach. You get me? Yeah. So actually, I think that when you bring that, when you bring the big four agendas, we understand that this came in the wake of the Vision 2030. You get me? So in the Vision 2030, there are things, the problems that we were to solve within some times. So like for example, when Mwai Kibaki was the president, then during his tenure, the things that he wanted to solve, the Kenyan problems that he wanted to, that this government was working so much to solve, so that by the Vision 2030, also before that, the governments that will come subsequently will also solve some, so that we can reach our what? We can attain our Vision 2030 of Kenya. So it is part of it, water shortage is part of it, that actually the government should solve. So the issue is the government really doing their work? Yeah. So that is the question. But that is a question for another time. But what are we doing personally as the people who are facing this problem? Yes.
Okay, just before I come to you, Alice, you said something to do with the Big Four agenda, which we anticipate maybe in 2030, everything will be right. But looking at the situation currently, do you think maybe the water crisis maybe could be solved within some time?
Well, if I look historically, water scarcity has been a thorny issue for a very long time. And as I said, it is not only an issue in coastal province, but this is something that is affecting the whole of Kenya. You get me? Even northeastern, you will, even in Nyanza, even in our very own Nairobi, we get water 3 days in a week. Some places that we live in, we get water 3 days in a week, and this is a place that it's the capital city of Kenya. We are facing this thing. So by 2030, if we are moving the same pace, then my dear, this is not a reality. It will not come to a reality by 2030, because we are almost approaching 2022. Yeah, and of course this is something that was initiated around in 2008 So in 2008, that is around 12 years. Yeah. If you look at 12 years and how many years do we have? We have around 8 years to 2030. So this issue is something that we cannot solve if we continue moving with this the same pace. And of course, citing corruption as the scapegoat, government itself saying that there are people who are stealing billions of money from the government itself. Yeah, unless the government will look at a way through which they can mitigate corruption cases, because corruption itself has been a thorn in our flesh. Yeah. Itself, it has been the embezzlement of the public funds has made a lot of developments have been slowed down. So I don't think this is something that we will be done deal by 2030. I think we'll be talking about it for several years if it do not change the way Kenya is being ruled. Yeah. So as we are approaching 2022, I think the Kenyans should now sit down and ask themselves that what kind of leaders do they want? Because after all, you'll understand, in some, there's one of the national leaders, that is the Deputy President William Ruto, was being interviewed, and he was being asked his stance on corruption. And he said, actually, corruption is not a big deal. Is not something that is affecting Kenya that can maybe make Kenya not to move forward. He thought that it's because of the leadership itself. And actually, I think it's leadership, because if you have a leadership that has got a negative, like has got a is so powerful and so effective towards fighting corruption, then why is it, I don't think that there's any other reason that could make us not achieve these issues, among them being water scarcity that has seen most of our children even drop out of schools. The sanity of our girls, of our own children, girls, because you know, girls, after some times we understand the periods and these are the things. If there's no water and no sanity, even their motivation to learn, motivation to do certain things, they cannot have it. You get me? So we must understand that water scarcity, it's a major problem, and this thing, this issue has to be like we have to find leaders who will help us in eradicating such things. And of course, it's good that we've brought this to a national discourse so that we can explicate and elucidate the issues around it. And we must understand that it is something that it starts from the national government itself. It trickles down to us, even our understanding of this. But as we said earlier, and of course as she talked about it, one of the things we must understand that we can mitigate it through the education, educating ourselves. But this thing in 2030, no, we'll still be discussing the same things. Yes.
And just before we go for the break, Alice, looking at the counties, those who have been affected mostly are the Coast, Kilifi, Lamu. The children really are passing through hard times. Maybe how could they cope up with the situation? Now, looking at the situation, we're in the midst of a pandemic, and water is very necessary in maintaining cleanness and sanitizing. So how could they cope with the situation with all this crisis?
I must say that during this COVID season, the issue of mental health is becoming a challenge. Reason being, if as a girl child I cannot access water, I'm on my menses, that affect my self-esteem. What next? What happened next? Whenever I get an avenue of sleeping out of that house, I'll do that. And that's why we have so many cases of early pregnancies there, because children will tend to go to a place where they find they get their basic needs well. And we also get that the education-wise, they're also affected. So in a nutshell, we need to create that awareness that water is key, water is life, water is everything that we need, and the government and everyone has a role to play when it comes to issues of water. I do believe once in a while they get rain there. Do they correct that? Do they have the correcting point of that water? So I know during this COVID, people have to keep on washing their hands as many times as possible, and maybe I think water then should be treated as a major priority in one's life. So the government and the community need to put that in mind, conserve water, and also do something like planting trees, ensuring that we don't mess with our environment. Yeah.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for your point. We shall be picking from that while we come from the break. We're going for a quick commercial break. Stay with us. We shall be right back. And welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for staying with us. We are talking about the water crisis that has been affecting most counties in Kenya, as well as the domestic violence, which is on the rise of this amidst the pandemic. And now, the other day, President Uhuru Kenyatta commissioned like 5 projects in the CBD with the help of the NMS, that is the NMS boss. And now, looking at the situation, they made Nairobi, the residents could access the water well, but looking to other counties like Turkana, Lamu, and any other county, do you think maybe this could be an eye-opener to them?
Well, the president commissioning the projects, the water projects in Nairobi, and not to other places. First of all, we must understand Nairobi is the capital city of Kenya. So, okay, this is not to say that those people do not need water, or like the projects will not be initiated. But I think that the government at least is showing interest in, has also shown that it is now opening their eyes towards the problem, this issue of water problem, the water scarcity in Kenya as a whole. And I think that if it has started in Nairobi, then probably it will reach even in Lamu and these other places. But of course, we have to start from somewhere. The president has to start somewhere. What will be the, by him starting in Nairobi, we will say that it is because it is a national, it's the capital city of Kenya. But what if it started in Turkana or somewhere else? So we must understand that I think the president did something great, and we should not read so much from it, like as the tax collectors or think that maybe it's just because of just doing it in Nairobi. I think the president has started somewhere. We should not read too much from it. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much on that. And now, yesterday, the Kenya Red Cross warned that we are going to experience like 38 counties are going to be affected by the floods in the coming future. So what do you think maybe could be done in those areas already facing the water crisis? What are they going to do?
Well, wow. The Kenya Red Cross giving a warning to certain places. Actually, we must understand that there are places like in Nyanza, places in like Nyando, around that Nyando, there are places even here in Nairobi, like the places that are always like somehow waterlogged. So the water has always stayed afloat, and so these problems, eradicating them might take time. It is not something that you can wake up today and do it. You get me? These are things that we have to plan for them. We have to sit down. We have to plan for them. It is something that is done for posterity, because we cannot just sit down and say that tomorrow we are going to do this and it is done, because this is an issue that has always been there. It is not an issue that is this is not something that is affecting Kenya for the very first time. You get me? Even the flooding. But the question that we must ask ourselves, that how are we going to use, because we understand that these issues, the flooding of water, is happening even in places that have scarcity of water. Yeah, you get me? So how are we going to use this rainwater? How are we going to tap this rainwater so that it can help us in the near future? You get me? How are we going to use this? How are we going to enable ourselves to use this water? How are we going to tap this rainwater so that it can help us even for posterity? Even for our children, if we have an idea, then I believe that will even help our children. That is the question. So, what we can do actually right now, it is very like we have little to do. Actually, we will still be hearing the Kenya Red Cross going to these places, the waterlogged places, the flooded areas, and carrying people to other places. because we are not thinking. We are waiting until. That is what I think about the government actually. Why should you wait? You know, these are things. Flooding comes. It's something that comes seasonally.
Yeah.
It is something that is. We have it. It's happening this year, and of course next year when during rainy seasons we'll have the same things. We'll have the same tragedy. Yeah, the same tragedy to call it so, for a lack of a better term, because this is tragedy. We have been facing floods for a very long time.
Yeah, and just on that, every time we're facing floods, and maybe Alice, to come on you, do you think maybe Kenyans should be prepared mentally to, because every time we're having floods, we always want maybe people should relocate to higher places, higher regions. Maybe do you think the government should improve on the way they cushion the citizens on preparing on such crisis?
Wow. Disaster management should be taken now seriously, because these are things which are inevitable. So if the government can be able to make sure that the Department of Disaster Management is in place, then we can get results. For example, I want to say what Eugene has said. We usually find that at Nyanza place, we can do ways of preventing those floods. For example, if the community is involved, the way you're saying, if people are told relocate, then the community should be told why are they relocating. You know, at times people don't know why they are doing so and so. So psychoeducating, creating that awareness, and then the government making sure that it has the disaster management team is working. I think we can.
And I also think that on the same note, when you look at ways through which the government, like how the government can help to curb these things, you know, I think the government should not be waiting waiting for this season so that they can tell us to move to higher places. What do you expect? Okay, like have plans, because we must understand that whenever we move to higher places and relocating, then the habitat, and that is why people like Elon Musk are coming up with multiplanetary habitats. Yeah, because they think that the earth is not adequate enough to provide or even to sustain men anymore. You get me? So people are coming up with the ideas on the same note of disaster management. You get me? And I think that the government should be doing these things early enough so that we people can understand. If it's maybe digging up whatever it is that they're going to dig and the terraces and every other thing, so that it can prevent these erosions and even the flooding of these places that are prone to water flooding, then we can do such so that this water can be channeled somewhere else, that it can be used later on. You get me? There is no need of telling people to move to higher places. Then,
but
what
how
about
can you
their plans?
control such a big water and floods?
But that is why I'm telling you that this is something that the government should sit down, and it is something that is affecting us, and it should be looked in a lenses that how can we solve this thing for posterity, not only for today. After you move to the high places, then what else? Because we realize that after moving to the high places, they always come back after the floods have reduced to continue the life. So what is it that can be done by the government so that we can ensure that we are not going to be told to move from our places of residence? Yeah? What are we going to do? So the government should come up with measures that can ensure that this is something that is done for posterity. This is something that it's going to mitigate flooding for life. Yeah, and I'm going to be assured that I'm going to live in my place, because even if I move to higher places, I'll not take my plants with them. I'll not take my livestock perhaps with them, because the high places might not even be near. You get me? So most of my plants and most things will have been affected adversely. Yeah. So the government should look at this seriously and not just telling us move to higher places, and then so what? Yeah. What about the schools? Are we going to take the schools with us to higher places? Yeah? Are we going to take our shops to higher places with us? These are the questions that we should ask ourselves. And so when tackling these issues, the government should look at ways through which it is going to tackle this one for posterity, as I mentioned.
Okay, Eugene, now looking at the situation, let's say like in Tana River County, now those people they're facing floods. And again, other times of the year, they always face the water crisis. So what do you tell these people?
There's nothing I can tell them which the government itself has not told them. Yes, yeah, that is plain. I cannot tell them anything different from what the Red Cross and the government or what they're listening from the
What
media outlet.
advice?
But my advice, personally, I can tell them to listen to the government. If they've been told to move to higher places, and that is what they still subscribe to, and they cannot think beyond that, and maybe look at ways through them as a community, they can help carve that for posterity, for their life, for even their children, or even their children's children, then that is something that is up to them. But it's not that is just on a light note. You get me?
Yes.
But I think this is something that coming on a national discourse. Yeah, we have to talk about this thing. We have to look at ways through which we have to mitigate the flooding, because this is an issue that is affecting us. And of course, even economic wise, when you look at it, it's affecting Kenya. The GDP, I believe, by the end of the year, it will be reduced because of some things. You get me? Yeah. So it's affecting us, even because if the Tana River people are producing certain or manufacturing certain products, then as consumers, perhaps you might not get them, or if you get them, you might get them somewhere else, but at a costly price. You get me? So I think these are the things that when you're choosing your leaders, now that is a governance expert. I'm talking when we're looking at your leaders, the leaders that we're going to elect, these are the people that should reflect. Should have the same.
We've always spoke every now and then that we should choose our leaders wisely. So, what is the turning point of it?
The leaders, Kenya, Kenyans are very funny. In 2013, they went and voted. No, not even in 2013. Oh, okay, like they've been voting since. But let us now bring it closer. In 2013, they voted, and they started crying. I don't know whatever. 2017, they also voted. They were also given another chance to look at who they really want to vote for, and they voted again for the same people. Yeah, and now Kenyans are the people who are now crying that a certain people must go. Where do you want them to go to? You chose them, you elected them. You start making posters that these people should go. The people that Kenyans should elect, the leaders that we should bring on board, are people who share the same vision as ours. You get me? The people who have the same plight as us. You get me? And that is why we elect Kenyans, our Kenyan citizen. Because that person will understand the plight of the Kenyans. You get me? When you talk about food starvation, when you talk about starvation, this is a person who has lived in Kenya long enough to understand that there's certain issues. But if you elect people who do not understand the problems, perhaps they've been living in places that you ask a whole president, how much does a bread cost? And a whole president will tell you that a bread is 200. So what does that tell you? Does this person even really know what certain things cost? If a bread I'm buying at 50, he thinks that it's 200. Then there's a problem there. We should elect people who we think that are well conversant, are well versed with the problems that are affecting us as citizens of this nation. So that when we talk to these people, when you go and tell them, bro, we agreed this way, these are what was in our manifestos, yeah? Then they can understand. Not people who we will ask them or tell them that we are broke, and they wonder how Kenyans are broke. Yeah, you get me. So it starts with the leaders. Yeah, just as I'll just like to echo the words of the Deputy President William Ruto, that it is leadership. There's a problem in leadership. Yeah, you get me. There's a problem in leadership. I like to look at cases in. Like a case in Libya as well. And before that, I'd love to maybe say or comment that perhaps I think the leadership, the kind of leadership that we need in Kenya is a kind of a dictatorial government, yeah? Kind of tyrannical, because then we can curb this corruption menace that is affecting Kenyans. You get me? Because you look at Libya, the Muammar Gaddafi, he was termed as a terrorist and as a dictator by the Western because of how he was leading Libya. Actually, people like Muammar Gaddafi were leading Africa in a certain way in which we are going to be economically independent from the loans that our presidents, our nations are asking for every now and then. You get me? Look at Libya right from the other time. In 1967, those are the times, okay, when Muammar Gaddafi was still the president. And look at now Libya, when the president is dead, it is chaotic. Those times, even the people who are not even working used to get tips because from the oil that the oil substance they were doing what? They were mining. And that because he was termed a dictator. Yeah. Look at Tanzania, where we had Magufuli. Yeah, Magufuli was a super nationalist. Yeah, so to say super national, we believed, and of course he believed in Tanzania. He believed so much in the wealth that Tanzania could create for itself, that it could fend for itself, and he had a little regard in other nations, and I think that helped him so much because in as much as he believed, just as he believed in Tanzania, we realized that there's a lot of things that he did even without taking loan from the Chinese and these other places that Kenyans are taking.
Wait, maybe do you mean that we should emulate the Libya, the Tanzania?
Yes, I'm talking. Okay, like everything has their the advantages and disadvantages, because Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is also termed as a dictator, and they think there's nothing much he's doing to Ugandans. What I think that should be done is that in terms of in issues to deal with corruption, we need strict leaders, people who should stand and say no, it's a no, it's a no, it's a no. You get me? People should deal with these cartels. And who is this person who can deal with the cartels? Because we understand that in as much as we are having issues, certain issues, not even, and my friend, this is not only a water starvation, water issue and starvation issue that Kenyans are facing. There are a lot of issues that we are facing. And all these things is because of the leadership, because of the corruption. And so my view itself is that we should embrace a certain dictatorship, a small kind of dictatorship, so that when the president, when the leader thinks that he stands against corruption is a no, then we know that even tomorrow, even the other days, we will still stand on the same note that is no towards corruption. And I think it will help so much because a lot of money we are taking, the loans that we're taking from these other financial institutions, as Kenyans, I think they're a burden to us because they're the things that are taxing. That is why we get a lot of tax. You get me? We are being taxed. People take the loans, then they eat it. Yeah. Some other people are saying that people are building their own empires. Yeah. They're even tagging the president as the Kenyatta Empire. Taking loans. Just the other day, we saw a poster made by one of the activists that this person, Uhuru Kenyatta of ID, this and this, is not, Kenyans will not be liable of any loans that he takes for his family. Because the loans that he's taking is for his own family. And the people, activists have been coming, crying. Yeah?
Yeah, and Victor, before we get deep into that, COVID has brought so many ways that it has led to increase of domestic violence in Kenya. And now looking at a situation, let's say in Lamu, Kilifi, you find the women and the girls spend like a third of the day walking long kilometers looking for water. Maybe, do you think at least how best could they solve their mental disturbance?
COVID has brought a lot of instability. It has destabilized people. For example, if those people are walking for so many kilometers to get water, and maybe whatever they were doing as a source of their income was off, then it's even become more stressing. And that's why we say that COVID has led to a lot of loss of job. And when people are stressed, I think we also have so many cases of people killing each other. There is a lot of domestic violence because if a man, I'm supposed to be the breadwinner, I've lost my job, these are my children, this is my wife, they are not understanding me. So what comes up? We start arguing because of stress. And when that stress is not managed, it leads to depression, which at times also lead to killing. So looking at those girls, I think they need to, I think the national government and the community at large, they need to look at ways of conserving water. The small water they have, they can be able to channel it well, maximize on it, and minimize the distances people are walking. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, they say when people come together, they can bring some chaos, or rather they can erupt these violence every now and then because they've been used to. Maybe you could help us understand what happens.
I heard you say that when people are together, violence is likely to do what? To come up. Huh?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So when, for example, we have a lockdown with us and the curfew is there, everybody is home, the father, the mother. But again, you find this situation with the curfew, it has made to a lot of increased domestic violence.
Oh, yes.
Maybe, so does it mean with the father and the mother all around, maybe could erupt to this chaos?
I get you now. This is a father who used to wake up by 5. He's back in the evening, late evening, and because of the curfew, we have to be in the house by 7. So they are spending much time together, and spending time together is the best thing. But on the other hand, if that person was making money in the evening part of it, and that money is not now enough to cater for the basic needs, that likely triggers the domestic violence because people are not used to be together for long. People are realizing, so Alice is like this, so and so is like this, because at least there is more time to that. And also because of stress. The other day I went to the butcher and he was telling me, you know what, I'm so stressed. Then I was like, what do you mean you are so stressed? Because most of my customers, they used to buy at around 8:08. But right now, I have to close by 7. So it means that with this curfew, with this lockdown, there's so many mental issues rising. Stress, depression, conflict, misunderstanding. Yeah. So I think it is contributing a lot to those issues.
Yeah, sure. And actually, Kenyans and people are silently battling a lot.
A lot.
So how best could the government mitigate these issues in the near future?
I'm so glad that yesterday, going through the job opportunities, I realized that the police service have so many positions for psychological counselors. It has come to the attention that mental health is no longer something we can step on the carpet. It's something we need to embrace. It's something we need to make it a normal thing. Feeling not okay is very normal nowadays. And so the government, just like that, we also saw on the news that the police people are killing each other. There's a lot of killings. And providing counseling services, that can be very helpful to the community. Knowing that when Alice is depressed, I can rush to the health center which is around me, I'll get that help. That is a good way of mitigating the issues of mental health. Yeah.
And again, just to move a little bit further, men currently, they are the greatest victims of gender-based violence, or rather the domestic violence as well. So do you think maybe they could be given maybe some more advice? Because actually you find of late more emphasis are on the girl child, the women. So what are for the men?
Men's in our society have a lot of responsibility on their head, and all the big organizations, they are giving attention to the women. So I agree the men also go through gender-based violence. It's because of the society, the stigma associated with it, that they will not talk about it, but they're also going through those issues. So creating awareness to men that it's okay to seek help. When I feel I'm not okay, it's okay to look for psychological help. It's okay to share with my friend. I think that is the best way we can do it. We can no longer assume that it's only women. Men are the most affected. So I think the society also need to embrace that whenever a man complains, or when they realize that a man is so down, instead of giving so much to that man, even of losing some responsibility, also knowing that those are men, they have feelings, they also go through their lowest moment. So creating a conducive environment for men and letting men know that it's okay to ask for help, it's okay to seek help, it's okay to cry, it's okay. You know, when all those expectations are lowered down, then the men are going to seek help. Yeah, so they also need to be supported. I agree with that 100%. Looking at the house, on the responsibility bestowed upon them, and they don't get a lot of support, all they receive is a lot of condemnation. I think that affects them so much. So men should now, whenever you feel you're not okay, it's okay to reach out to get help. Yeah, instead of drinking or doing those bad things, maybe looking for other ways to manage stress can help. Maybe going for a gym, walking away instead of doing something harmful, ensuring that ensuring that they're in the right environment. That will help a lot.
All right.
Yeah.
And just before finalizing, Victor, currently the women actually, they've battered men, because we've had issues where a woman has beaten off somebody's here. Maybe whom can we blame on this? Is it maybe somebody who is advising the women, or what exactly can we?
The battle between? Sorry, like?
Currently, we've had cases where women are fighting to death or even biting off ears. We had a case recently on that. So who can we blame on this?
Well, first I'm Eugene. You just called me Victor, Mr. John. On this issue of ladies fighting men, I think for a very long time, like gender-based violence, people have always thought, or when we talk about gender-based violence, most people believe that it is violence meted on women and even on children. But they do not understand that there's some point in time that even men also undergo gender-based violence. Yeah, so there are so many ways in which gender-based violence is meted to men. Yeah, even through trauma. You get me? Whenever you expect a man, for example, during this time where we have had lockdown, the quarantine stuff, work from home, and even some people have been some people working in big companies, some were eliminated. You get me? From their work, from their jobs, and so some are jobless. They are sitting at home jobless. You get me? And now, like the ladies, there's a guy I understood that used to earn around was it around over 500,000? You get me? So this person earning that huge amount of money, no, it was around 400,000. So from 400,000 to 40,000 shillings. Yeah, and yet the wife still expects that same guy to provide to the family the same way this person used to provide to the family during that time when he used to earn 400k. You see, so this is trauma. This is affecting the mental health of the boy child, and I think this is something that we should discuss it, just as my sister said. This is something that we are now happy that it is coming to the national discourse. We can now come and interact with such thoughts that men are also victims. You get me? And how is it? You're asking me about who is it to be blamed? Yeah, the society is to be blamed. And who is the society? It is me and you. The same society that we had decades ago that used to make women inferior is the same ones that are working so tirelessly.
But again, Eugene,
yes?
You see, in looking at the cases, when women have small issues in their families, they run to the older women. to get more advice. Maybe could we blame the older women for engaging them in maybe some deceitful thoughts?
Not really. You know, we cannot base our argument entirely and say that every woman, every lady who has an issue in the house goes to older women. Sometimes they even go to their own their own friends who are not older women, their own, very own peers. You get me? And some even their other male friends. Some women have other male friends, and they tell them, do this and this to your husband, or even do this. Or even it is something out of self-conviction. They're just convicted and know this is the right thing to do, and they're going to do it without even asking people. So the society, just as the society has always echoed the issues that are affecting ladies, it is now high time that even the issues that are affecting boy child, the mental health of men, should also be echoed, so that we can understand that even men are also being affected. You get me? And this thing that is affecting men, there's a question that you asked earlier on they're now at home. You get me? And has it by any extent made has increased the cases of gender-based violence? Yes, it has increased, but who is to be blamed is your question. We understand that what you give is what you receive. As a man, if I come home, I have my wife and my children. I smile with you and do other things, but if you as a wife, you have a problem when I cannot provide for you. Like if you see me at home, you know, if you see me at home and I do not have a work, you must understand. Well, like you must be an understanding. Just as men, you want us to understand you, ladies. You also, ladies, give us ample time, give us a conducive environment when you come at home, so that we know when you come at home, and hakuna madharau. Like it give me a conducive environment. There's love. Even if I don't come with food, or if I bring mboga even for 1 week, and you still show me the same love and conditional love, then what will make me become angry? Yeah, you get me? So if anytime I come and because I brought mboga today, mdomo umevuta futi saba, then it means that
all right, Victor, because of time, let's us leave it at that point, and thank you so much for making time for making such a discussion. I'm glad you could just make time for that. And you can be part of this conversation by following us on the social media platforms at Twitter, Instagram and Facebook at Lookup TV, as well as engage us on the SMS line, which is 20374. Let us know what you think about our topic of discussions. Thank you so much for coming.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
Have a lovely night.
Asante.